Good morning. It's July 7th, and we're in Second Chronicles, chapter 4 and following today. And yeah, I'm not going to lie, even for somebody who loves the Old Testament, these chapters and chapters of genealogies can be really challenging. They're names that are hard to pronounce. They're people who lived a long time ago. Very few of them are familiar to us. And yet, they play an important role in the Old Testament. So, and it is the Word of God as well. It's inspired Word of God, all of it, Old Testament, New Testament, every word of it is inspired by God and is useful for us. Um, but on the other hand, I'm not going to argue that this is something that you are going to necessarily enjoy. However, this was something that was of very good importance to the Israelites, especially as they were coming back out of exile. I believe that First and Second Chronicles, were written during the exile and were meant to encourage those who were living in exile to come back into the land and to reestablish the monarchy and the temple worship again. And to spread themselves out again in the land that God had promised to them, and to be fruitful and multiply, just like they were instructed to do back in Genesis. And so these help them to know where they should go when they go back to the land, who has an inheritance where, based on who their relatives were. And so for them, it's a sense of identity. It's telling them where they belong and what rights they have in terms of ownership of land. And this has been passed down from generations, and this is an opportunity for them to go back and reclaim those lands that were theirs ancestrally. And there's a responsibility that comes along with that too. Some of this land would have been very challenging to retake after coming back from exile. There have been people living there for a couple of generations, maybe even longer, in some of these places that would have had the expectation that this was their land as well. So coming back and reestablishing themselves there would have been very difficult. And we find that even in the 20th century, when the Jews came back into the land, they're still having a challenging time deciding who goes where and what happens with all of that land. And it's fighting within the Jews and between themselves and with their neighbors on how to appropriate all of that kind of thing. So part of what that shows me, honestly, is that the land was not the primary concern for God, for the people, that they should not have um, maybe staked their whole identity on what land they were tied to in this earth. That was actually, they should have been looking for a heavenly kingdom, as it says about Abraham and others in Hebrews chapter 11. So, but there's some helpful things in here for us to know about how these things pass down. And it also shows the faithfulness of God over many generations. These are people who lived long ago. Some of them walked with God, others did not, but God has preserved a remnant of those who are going to come back from exile, and they have some past and some history in that place. And so it shows that God's been faithful even despite people's unfaithfulness through those generations. So there's something to take from those genealogies. Much more, obviously, than that, too, but that's some of what I had for you today.